So I lost 130 pounds, completely transformed my life. And if I had to talk to my previous self how I would do it, these are the three main things that changed everything for me. I even got posted by David Goggins, which is something I would never expect to happen at the end of my transformation. The first thing I would like to talk about is training and actual energy expenditure. Fat loss isn't about completely destroying yourself at the start. Fat loss isn't about annihilating yourself, right? It's about doing what you can do consistently to show up in something that you can do sustainably. And here are things that I did all the time. I never missed a session because I had a plan that actually worked and was sustainable. Cardio was a non-negotiable. Me personally, during my transformation, I did not have a step goal. Now, I do know step goals matter quite a bit, but you can go down two different avenues of thought here. Your energy expenditure needs to come from somewhere, either your steps or your actual cardio. If you are doing cardio, this is what we call like zone 2 cardio. And steps, this is where you're just going for like that step count of like 7.5K, 10K, 12K, whatever it is. At the end of the day, your energy expenditure has to come from somewhere. And in my case, doing direct cardio 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes per day suited my own personal lifestyle a lot easier, so I can burn calories that way instead of going through the step count way. Now, I'm not one to say you can't do steps. You can do a combination of both. You can just do steps, or you can just do cardio, kind of like what I did during my transformation. Both work, but at the end of the day, energy expenditure is what's going to matter for your actual transformation. Now, the other thing here is actually having the proper weight training structure. So typically how weight training goes is you have blocks that can last from 6 to 12 weeks. And inside these blocks, you usually have a goal in mind. So it might be growing your biceps, might be growing your legs, might be growing your back, but it might even be pushing towards new PRs. So like a better bench press PR, a better squat PR, a better deadlift PR, or just maybe other movements that you want to focus on. Typically in these blocks, that is what you're going to prioritize. And during these blocks, you need to progress somehow. So typically the way is linear progression. So you're going to be overloading movements every single week. You guys probably know this, where you're going to be making it harder in some way, either by increasing the weight, slowing down the tempo, doing more reps, just things like this, so you can improve somehow every single week. Now, the key here is to slowly overload over the weeks. For example, if you start off your first week of the block of like 250 pounds, say squatting, the next week you're either going to want to increase the reps or you're going to want to increase the weight. So you're going to be doing less reps. And then as the weeks progress, you're going to tailor up to a peak week where you kind of give that week like your all. And there's lots of information about this on there, but I'm trying to sum it up really quickly for you guys. Basically, you need to be able to push hard over periods of time and then do like a deload or some sort of break. And this is about 1 week or so. And think of these blocks as little micro progressions you can have throughout your weight loss journey. And imagine block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, all these blocks add up and they give you a really strong foundation for your transformation. Because you know in block 1, you built out your legs. In block 2, you built out your biceps. In block 3, you built out your back. In block 4, you built out your chest. And then at the end of it, all these blocks add up, so you have a really strong foundation for your transformation. Now, in terms of exercising, you don't need to overcomplicate it. You're going to be starting off your workouts typically with 1 to 3 compound movements. So say it's a leg day, you want to start with a compound movement. This would be something like squats. Then after you have your compound movements handled, typically the compound movements are like 1 to 3 sets and like anywhere from like 3 to 15 reps. That is typically the range depending on your own goals. Obviously, if you're going for strength gains, you're doing, maybe 3 to 5 sets with lower reps. If you're going for more of a hypertrophy focus, you're going to be going for reps that are higher. So we're talking like 8 to 12 reps, 12 reps plus 3 sets, kind of that range. So you're getting a decent amount of volume in. The intensity in terms of load is not too high, but the actual volume is much higher. So with the actual volume and frequency out of the way, I'll get into kind of the accessory work. The accessory work is kind of like the boring part. So pretty much after you do your squat or main compound movement for that day, you're going to be doing your accessory. This is smaller movements, and think of it as like your bicep curls, your tricep extensions. It can be something that's like a variation of a compound movement. So something like a Romanian deadlift. And in these variation movements, this is where you have to focus on time under tension, getting a good stretch, getting a good squeeze, and really trying to get as much blood flow into that muscle group you are targeting for that day. In total, you don't need like 20 different exercises. All you need is roughly like 5 exercises, 3 sets, anywhere from like 5 to 12 reps, like I was talking about, but making those reps count in every single exercise selection that you are doing. I'm going to quote the great C-Bum here, but he said it one time ago and it stuck with me ever since, is you don't count reps, you make reps count. And with that mentality, you really want to squeeze out like every single rep that you have. So if you're going for like your bicep curls, you really want to focus on the negative. You really want to put that tension all on your bicep so you can maximize muscle stimulus in that actual movement. So the key takeaway here is you actually grow when you're consistently in the gym and pushing hard. End of story. The second big thing here was nutrition and macro strategy. So I didn't diet harder. I just had a smarter game plan. What changed everything was having a macro-based approach. And this is something I call the sustainable deficit system. And in the system, basically, you're calculating your macronutrients, something that you can adhere to first without actually feeling like it's a diet. So for some people, this might be around maintenance or so, and you're just gonna get used to hitting your maintenance calories, and then you can adjust accordingly, slightly going into a deficit every single week. Now, here's where the fun happens. When you actually go into the deficit, there's a bunch of things that you have to, pay attention to. One is your actual body weight. So you're gonna be weighing yourself every single day, and you're gonna get an average body weight per week. On top of this, you're gonna be tracking your calories every day, and you're gonna track an average per week. Once you have these two values, you can evaluate your data accordingly. So with these two values, you can see your average body weight, see your average calories. And say after 2 to 3 weeks, your average body weight is not really moving, you have a pretty solid answer that that number of whatever you're counting is, your average, is not a deficit, and you need to lower your calorie deficit. Now, in terms of lowering your calorie deficit, here's the thing where a lot of people go wrong. The last thing you want to do is cut down your calories super low to lose weight. Think of calories as fuel, and think of if you are cutting down your calories, you're leaving the results on the table. So this is where the approach comes in, is to cut down your calories without actually cutting down your calories, you need to increase your energy expenditure. And this is where it comes down, where you just do extra cardio, you do more steps, and it's gonna come from that. Now, the hybrid approach to this, if your energy expenditure is already high, maybe you're doing already a crazy amount of steps and you're doing a crazy amount of cardio, this is where you are going to have to cut down calories, but you're gonna do it strategically. So on days that you are not training or you're not working out, you're gonna be cutting down calories. Now, this is ideal and optimized because you're leaving more food on the table, more energy for your actual training days. But here's the thing. You can do that, but a lot of people struggle to optimize it. And if you don't want to go that route, okay, you're leaving a little bit of progress on the table, but what you can do to be smart with it is days that you are locked in. Like, you're working 8 hours, you have to go to the gym at this time, blah, 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 and you have meal prep. Those are the days that you're going to take a lower calorie day. And then the days where typically the weekends, this is typically what happens. The days where you're going to be eating more, maybe you have an event, maybe you have a party, that sort of thing. Those are designated high days of calories, because the logic here is on the low day of calories, you don't want to be over your calories because you're actually going to be eating that amount of calories. Now, on the days that you are having higher calories, or it's a designated high day, you rather go higher on those days because it's more of a planned high day. All in all, what you're trying to do is make sure it's sustainable. You can actually adhere to it in that case. Now, the other route, like I was talking about, if you're trying to optimize it, this is where you're simply going to have more carbohydrates on the days that you do train, because carbohydrates are the preferred source of fuel for the body, making the sessions that much more effective, making performance that much more effective, making recovery that much more effective, and making your actual transformation as best as possible. Basically, the main takeaway here is if you want to optimize your performance, you're eating higher calories on days you actually do train, you're going to be eating lower calories on days you don't. And if you're not really too keen on optimizing performance, and you're just trying to make it as sustainable as possible, you're going to be eating lower calories on days you can lock in, typically work days or days where you have your meal prep. And then days that you want to eat more, you're going to sign it for actual weekends when you have a party or an event. And that is going to be all planned to and adhered to. So it makes losing weight a lot easier. It doesn't really feel like a diet. And one of the biggest things that helped me during my transformation was getting a coach as well. So during my weight loss transformation, I was working with a powerlifting coach well before, for like a year and a half before actually going into nutrition. This coach is like a world-class powerlifting coach. He has world-class athletes under him, and powerlifting was like a thing that I liked to do before I started to lose weight. And with this powerlifting coach, he taught me every single week, because he would give me a weekly check-in. And with this weekly check-in, he would tell me what foods to prioritize, how to prioritize carbs, how to carb load, how to cycle your calories accordingly. Basically everything I told you guys in the last couple minutes. And the reason why getting a coach was so effective was because I didn't truly trust myself during the process. I was 300 pounds. I did not believe in myself. I needed that external structure. And basically what I just said, my coach giving weekly updates, made all the difference, because I knew if I chalked down a 700 calorie cheesecake, my coach is going to look at that 700 calorie cheesecake and say, what the heck is going on? And one thing you have to realize is there's no shame in looking for extra help. If you are smart enough to realize your situation, say, I need help, I need to change, and you actually change, then there is no issue with that. Now with my own coaching, I've taken everything I learned from that coaching experience when I was 300 pounds, kept in everything that I liked, and took out everything that I didn't like. Also, it can be sustainable to help men lose weight and actually transform their lives. So if you're stuck and been overweight for a long time and feel like food controls you, this is exactly the type of people I can help. I'm not selling some motivation. I'm just selling the exact system I use to lose 130 pounds and transform my life. There'll be a link below. You guys can check it out. No pressure.